Hello and good day everyone. We are from Group 9 and we are excited to take you on an adventure through Latin America. Latin America is a region rich in natural beauty and diversity. Its geographical features range from lush rainforests and expansive deserts to high mountain ranges and stunning island chains. Today, we will focus on the high mountains that dominate the landscape and the island chains that dot the surrounding seas. These features not only shape the environment but also play crucial roles in the culture, history, and economies of the region. Let's start by locating Latin America on the world map. Latin America is located entirely in the Western Hemisphere on the continents of North and South America, stretching from the Rio Grande in the north to the icy reaches of Tierra del Fuego in the south. Latin America includes everything from Mexico through Central America, the Caribbean, and all the way down to South America. This vast region is home to an incredible variety of geographical features. Latin America includes Central and South America, Mexico, and the Spanish-speaking Caribbean. Despite their differences, these countries share a rich cultural heritage, vibrant traditions, and diverse societies. The term Latin America was created by European colonial powers to distinguish countries. Today, while most of Latin America still speaks Romance languages, the region also includes some Caribbean and South American countries where English and Dutch are spoken. The region's countries vary greatly in size. Latin America has about 659 million people, characterized by high natural growth and rapid urbanization. Brazil, the largest and most populous country in the region, is a central hub. Economic and political power is concentrated in large urban industrial areas, driving development and innovation. The rich culture of Latin America is deeply influenced by ancient civilizations like the Maya, Aztec, and Inca, whose legacies still resonate in the region's vibrant traditions and heritage. Now, let's discuss the climate and environment of Latin America. This vast region covers a wide range of latitudes and longitudes, resulting in diverse climatic zones. The Amazon Basin, Central America, and the Caribbean have a tropical climate with high temperatures and significant rainfall year-round, creating lush rainforests. In contrast, areas like the Atacama Desert, the Gran Chaco, and northern Mexico have an arid climate, with dry conditions and sparse vegetation. The southern parts of Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina, and Chile enjoy a temperate climate with milder temperatures and seasonal variations. The highland climate of the Andes Mountains creates significant temperature variations due to altitude, supporting unique ecosystems and agricultural practices adapted to these cooler, variable conditions. Meanwhile, El Niño is a climate phenomenon that significantly impacts Latin America. It involves periodic warming of sea surface temperatures in the central and eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. When El Niño occurs, it disrupts typical weather patterns, causing extreme conditions across the region. In South America, El Niño often brings heavy rainfall and flooding to the western coast of Peru and Ecuador, leading to devastating floods and landslides. Conversely, it tends to cause drought in the Amazon basin and northeast Brazil, affecting agriculture and water supply. Central America and the Caribbean also experience unusual weather, including increased storm activity and altered hurricane patterns. Latin America has the Andes Mountains, the longest continental mountain range in the world, stretching over 7,000 kilometers through 7 countries and offering breathtaking peaks and diverse ecosystems. Then, we have the Amazon rainforest, the planet's largest tropical rainforest, teeming with unparalleled biodiversity, and the mighty Amazon River, which, though the second longest river in the world, carries more water than any other. We will also visit the Atacama Desert, known as the driest place on Earth, with its surreal landscapes. Patagonia, with its vast arid steppes, grasslands, and deserts, offers stark, stunning beauty. Finally, the Brazilian highlands, covering much of Brazil's eastern, southern, and central regions, boast rich biodiversity and dramatic terrain. Each of these features contributes to the incredible diversity and natural beauty of Latin America. The Andes Mountains stretch along the western edge of South America, spanning 7 countries: Argentina, Chile, Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela. The Andes are a complex system of high peaks, deep valleys, and plateaus. They have a variety of climates and ecosystems, from the arid Atacama Desert to lush cloud forests and icy high-altitude tundra. This rock landscape was home to ancient civilizations like the Incas, who built Machu Picchu high in these mountains. Today, the Andes continue to inspire and attract hikers, climbers, scientists, and travelers from around the world. Their breathtaking views, rich cultural history, and biodiversity make the Andes a key part of Latin America's natural heritage. Let's talk about one of the most fascinating and vital ecosystems on Earth, which is the Amazon rainforest. It is the largest tropical rainforest in the world, covering much of northwestern Brazil and extending into Colombia, Peru, and several other South American countries. This vast area spans about 5.5 million square kilometers. The Amazon is often called the lungs of the earth because it produces around 20% of the world's oxygen. Its importance goes beyond this. It is home to millions of species of plants, insects, birds, and mammals, many of which are unique to this region. Next, the Amazon River, one of the world's most magnificent natural wonders, spans across northern South America, predominantly through Brazil. This mighty river is the second longest globally and boasts the highest water flow of any river on Earth. It begins in the Andes Mountains of Peru and winds through lush rainforests, nurturing unparalleled biodiversity along its banks. By the time it empties into the Atlantic Ocean, the Amazon River has gathered waters from countless tributaries, forming a colossal freshwater expanse that sustains diverse ecosystems and countless species. Its significance extends beyond geography. It is a lifeline for indigenous communities and a critical regulator of global climate patterns. The Atacama Desert, nestled in northern Chile, is renowned as one of the driest places on Earth, where rain is rare and the arid terrain stretches for thousands of kilometers. Imagine basalt flats shimmering under the relentless sun, contrasting with towering volcanoes on the horizon. Despite its harsh conditions, the Atacama hosts a surprising array of life, from resilient cacti to hardy animals like the vicuña. Its clear skies and lack of light pollution make it an astronomer's paradise, offering unparalleled views of the cosmos from observatories perched on its barren peaks. The Atacama Desert, with its stark beauty and scientific significance, invites us to ponder the resilience of life and the mysteries of our universe. Patagonia, a vast and rugged region shared by Argentina and Chile at the southernmost tip of South America, is a land of dramatic contrast. Here, arid steppes meet icy glaciers and windswept grassland stretch as far as the eye can see. Patagonia is renowned for its pristine wilderness and unique biodiversity, with majestic Andean peaks on the horizon and expansive deserts adding to its mystique. Despite its harsh environment, the region boasts a rich cultural heritage shaped by its indigenous peoples and European settlers who have adapted to its challenges. The Brazilian highlands, spanning across the eastern, southern, and central regions of Brazil, showcase diverse landscapes. They feature expansive plateaus, rugged mountains, and fertile river basins weaving through lush greenery. These highlands profoundly influence Brazil's geography, ecosystem, and cultural heritage. They are integral to the Amazon rainforest vibrancy and the urban centers of Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, serving as the foundation of Brazil's natural and human landscapes, providing beauty and resources to its inhabitants. That is all from me. Please continue with Alit for the next subtopics to be covered.
First is deforestation. One of the most pressing environmental concerns in Latin America is deforestation, particularly in the Amazon rainforest. Known as the lungs of the earth, the Amazon is being rapidly cleared for agriculture, cattle ranching, lodging, and mining. This deforestation not only leads to the loss of biodiversity, but also disrupt water cycles and contributes significantly to climate change by releasing stored carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Second is biodiversity loss. The rich biodiversity of Latin America, encompassing the Amazon, the Andes, and the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef, is under threat. Habitat destruction, overexploitation of species, and pollution are primary drivers of biodiversity loss. Many species unique to this region are at risk of extinction, which could have far reaching consequences for global biodiversity and ecological balance. Third is water pollution and scarcity. Water pollution is a major issue in Latin America with industrial waste, agricultural runoff, and inadequate sewage treatment contaminating many rivers and lakes. This pollution poses health risks to local population and degrades aquatic ecosystem. Additionally, water scarcity is becoming an increasing concern driven by climate change and over-extraction of water resources, affecting both rural and urban communities. Fourth is air pollution. Urban areas in Latin America often suffer from poor air quality due to vehicle emissions, industrial activities, and the burning of biomass. This air pollution has significant health implications, contributing to respiratory and cardiovascular disease. Efforts to improve air quality are essential for the health and well-being of urban populations. Fifth is climate change. The impact of climate change are already evident in Latin America, manifesting as more frequent and severe weather events, including hurricanes, floods, and droughts. These events not only cause immediate destruction but also have long-term effects on agricultural productivity, water availability, and increase the risk of wildfires. Over the last 3 decades, regional sea levels have increased at a much faster rate than the global mean level, particularly in the South Atlantic, 3.52 plus minus zero point zero millimeter per year, and subtropical North Atlantic regions of the continent, 3.48 plus minus zero point 0.1 millimeter per year. At present, this issue continues to threaten the coastal population by contamination of freshwater aquifers and increasing risk of storm surges. A few cities which are considered to be highly vulnerable to climate change impacts of flooding and cyclone are Fortaleza, Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo, and Porto Alegre in Brazil, Buenos Aires in Argentina, Santiago in Chile, and Lima in Peru. The history in America Latin starts with the ancient civilization of pre-Columbian era. The history of Latin America begins with the remarkable achievement of its ancient civilization. The Olmec civilization, circa 1500 until 400 before century, often referred to as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, laid the groundwork with their colossal head sculptures and early developments in writing and calendar system. Following the Olmecs, the Maya civilization, circa 2000 before century until 1300 century, emerged known for their sophisticated knowledge in astronomy, mathematics, and architecture, with cities like Tikal and Chichen Itza standing as testament to their ingenuity. The Aztec Empire, circa 1345 until 1531 century, rose to prominence in the central region of present-day Mexico. Renowned for their military prowess and elaborate religious ceremonies, the Aztec built the magnificent city of Tenochtitlan in the Andes, the Inca Empire, circa 1438 until 1533 century, became the largest empire in pre-Columbian America, known for its advanced road system and architectural marvels like Machu Picchu. Now we go to the colonial period. European exploration and conquest. The arrival of Christopher Columbus in 1492 marked the beginning of European exploration and colonization in Latin America. Spanish and Portuguese conquests quickly followed, with figures like Herman Cortés and Francisco Pizarro leading the subjugation of the Aztec and Inca empires, respectively. The Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494 divided the newly discovered lands between Spain and Portugal, setting the stage for extensive colonial rule. Spain established viceroyalties in New Spain, Peru, New Granada, and Rio de la Plata to govern their vast territories. The encomienda and later repartimiento system exploited indigenous labor, drastically altering native societies. In Brazil, the Portuguese established a system of captaincies, later centralizing control under a viceroy. The economy was heavily reliant on sugar plantation and subsequently coffee. Colonial rule led to a significant blending of cultures, resulting in mestizaje, the mixing of indigenous, European, and African peoples. This created diverse cultural and racial identities across the region. The Catholic Church played a pivotal role in education, conversion, and the cultural assimilation of indigenous people, leaving a lasting religious and cultural legacy. Now we go to the independence movement, 19th century, early rebellions. The Haitian Revolution 1791 until 1804, led by Townsend L. Overture, was the first successful slave revolt, leading to Haiti's independence from France. Inspired by this, South America saw a wave of independence movements. Key figures like Simon Bolivar and Jose de San Martin spearheaded efforts to liberate countries such as Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Argentina, Chile, and Peru from Spanish rule. In Mexico, the War of Independence, 1810 until 1821, initiated by Miguel Hidalgo and Jose Maria Morelos, culminated in independence from Spain in 1821. The newly independent nation faced significant challenges. Political instability, characterized by internal conflicts and caudillismo, means ruled by local strongmen, was common. Economically, many countries rely on single exports such as coffee, sugar, making them vulnerable to market fluctuations. 20th century transformation. The 20th century brought profound change to Latin America. The Mexican Revolution 1910 until 1920 led to significant social and land reforms, reshaping the country's political landscape. In 1959, the Cuban Revolution saw Fidel Castro establish a socialist state, influencing leftist movement across the region. The Cold War further impacted Latin America, with the US and USSR or Soviet Union supporting various regions and movements, leading to proxy conflicts and political repression. Many countries experienced periods of military rule during this time, often marked by human rights abuses. However, the late 20th century saw a wave of democratization as countries transitioned to democratic governments. In recent decades, Latin America has made strides towards economic integration, with regional organizations like Mercosur and the Pacific Alliance promoting economic cooperation, social movements advocating for indigenous rights, environmental protection, and social justice have gained prominence, reflecting the region's dynamic and evolving political landscape.
Hola, soy Ara. Estamos emocionados de compartir contigo un poco sobre nuestra hermosa cultura colombiana. En Colombia, la familia es muy importante para nosotros. A menudo celebramos grandes reuniones familiares y celebramos juntos ocasiones especiales. Y sí, amamos nuestra música y baile. La cumbia y la salsa son muy populares aquí. La gente suele bailar en fiestas y festivales. También disfrutamos de nuestra deliciosa comida. ¿Has probado las arepas o la bandeja paisa? Son deliciosos y esos son algunos de nuestros platos favoritos. Espero que hayas disfrutado aprendiendo un poco sobre nuestra cultura. Le deseo al Grupo 9 todo lo mejor para su presentación y un saludo muy especial a su conferencista, la señora Nurjusmawati binti Mof Yusuf. Selamat Sejateral. Chao, chao.
Muchas gracias, Ara. Anyway, Ara is my good friend who lives in Bogota, Colombia. Latin America's culture is a vibrant and dynamic blend of indigenous, African, and European influences shaped over centuries. This rich cultural mosaic is reflected in the region's language, tradition, music, dance, cuisine, and religious practice, making it one of the most diverse and colorful regions in the world. Language is a cornerstone of Latin American culture. Spanish is the predominant language in most countries, while Portuguese is the primary language in Brazil. Numerous indigenous languages are also spoken, such as Quechua in Peru and Bolivia, Nahuatl in Mexico, and Guarani in Paraguay. This linguistic diversity highlights the religion's complex historical and social dynamics as well as its deep-rooted indigenous heritage. Religion is a significant component of Latin American culture, with the majority of the population adhering to Christianity, predominantly Roman Catholicism, due to Spanish and Portuguese colonization. There is also a rich tapestry of religious practice, blending Catholicism with indigenous and African beliefs. Latin American art and literature are celebrated for their diversity and creativity, often reflecting the region's complex social and political landscape. Muralism in Mexico, with artists like Diego Rivera and David Alfaro Siqueiros, use public murals to address social and political issues. Magical realism, a literary genre pioneered by writers like Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Isabel Allende, blends the fantastical with the everyday, capturing the region's unique perspective on reality. Indigenous art and craft, including textile, pottery, and jewelry, showcase the rich cultural heritage and artistic tradition of Latin American native peoples. This artistic expression play a crucial role in shaping and reflecting the cultural identity of the region. Music and dance. Music and dance are central to Latin American cultures, like what Ara said before, with each country offering unique styles and rhythms that are recognized globally. Salsa, merengue, and bachata from the Caribbean are known for their lively beats and energetic movements. Tango from Argentina and Uruguay is characterized by its passionate and dramatic style. Samba and bossa nova from Brazil blend African rhythms with Portuguese influences. Mariachi music from Mexico features stringed instruments and powerful vocal. This musical genre often accompany traditional dance performed during festival, celebration, and community gatherings, underscoring the importance of music and dance in social and cultural life. Now we go to the World Association. First, Organization of American States (OAS), founded in 1948. The OAS includes 35 independent states of the Americas. Its primary goal is to promote democracy, human rights, security, and development across the Americas. The OAS serves as a forum for political dialogue, cooperation, and conflict resolution among member states. Second, Community of Latin American and Caribbean States (CELAC), established in 2010. CELAC comprises 33 countries from Latin Americas and the Caribbean. CELAC aims to promote regional integration and unity, focusing on political dialogue, social development, and economic cooperation, while reducing the influence of the United States and Canada in regional affairs. Third, Union of South American Nations, UNASUR, was founded in 2008 and includes 12 South American countries. Its goal is to enhance regional integration in areas such as infrastructure, health, defense, and economic development. UNASUR also aims to foster South American identity and unity. Fourth, Mercosur, Southern Common Market, founded in 1991. Mercosur's members include Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Venezuela. Currently suspended. Mercosur promotes free trade and the fluid movement of goods, people, and currency among its member states, aiming for economic integration and development. Fifth, Pacific Alliance. Established in 2011, the Pacific Alliance consists of Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru. Its focus on economic integration, particularly in trade, investment, and development of people, with the aim of creating a unified economic bloc to strengthen trade relations with the Asia Pacific region. Six, United Nations (UN). The UN promotes international peace, security, human rights, and development. Latin American countries are active participants in various UN bodies and initiatives contributing to global governance and policy making. 7. World Trade Organization (WTO). The WTO regulates international trade and ensures that trade flows as smoothly, predictably, and freely as possible. Many Latin American countries are members working to promote their trade interests and resolve disputes. 8. International Monetary Fund (IMF) and World Bank. This institution provide financial assistance, policy advice, and technical support to countries in need. Latin American countries engage with the IMF and World Bank to secure funding for development projects and economic stabilization. Ninth, G20. The G20 is an international forum for governments and central bank governors for 90 countries and the European Union, including Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico. It addresses global economic issues, including financial stability, sustainable development, and trade. 10. Latin America Studies Association, LASA, founded in 1966. LASA promotes the study of Latin America, fostering intellectual exchange and research on the region's politics, economics, and culture. It hosts conferences and publishes scholarly work. Next, Ibero-American General Secretariat, SEGI, founded in 2003. SEGI includes 32 Ibero-American countries. It fosters cooperation in areas such as education, culture, social development, and innovation. SEGI organizes the Ibero-American Summit of Heads of State and Government.
Latin America is traditionally divided into several subregions based on geographic, cultural, and sometimes economic criteria. There are six Latin America subregions, which is Mexico and Central America. America consists of Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. These countries share a historical and cultural heritage influenced by indigenous civilizations such as the Maya and Aztec, as well as Spanish colonialism. The Caribbean. The subregion encompasses the island and mainland territories of the Caribbean Sea, including Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, and others. It is characterized by a mix of indigenous, African, and European influences with a rich cultural diversity. The North Andes. This subregion includes the countries that are part of the Andes Mountain Range, which is Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. These countries share a significant indigenous heritage and have diverse landscape ranging from tropical rainforests to high altitude mountains. The southern cone or the southern South America. The subregion consists of the southernmost countries of South America, which is Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, and Paraguay. It is characterized by a predominantly European cultural influence due to large-scale immigration from countries like Italy and Spain in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Brazil, due to its size and distinct cultural and geographical characteristics, Brazil is sometimes considered separately from the rest of Latin America. It is the largest country in South America and has unique history shaped by Portuguese colonialism and indigenous influence. The economic history of Mexico is a complex tapestry shaped by various factors, including colonization, independence struggles, revolution, economic policies, and international relations. Before Spanish colonization, Mexico, then known as Mesoamerica, had advanced civilization like the Aztec, Maya, and Zapotecs. Agriculture was the primary economic activity, with advanced techniques such as terracing and irrigation. Before Europeans arrived, the indigenous people of what is now Mexico were already mining using simple but effective tools and methods for their time. It goes back to at least 1400 before Christ, starting with obsidian, which was not only used for tools and weapons but also for ceremonies and trade. Obsidian was mined in the state of Jalisco, Puebla, and Guanajuato using stone tools to gather large amounts of this volcanic glass. Other mined materials included turquoise, jade, and various metals valued for their beauty and usefulness in jewelry and decoration, as well as trade goods. The mining techniques were basic, usually involving open pits and using stone hammers and fire to break rocks. This profession was very important socially and culturally in pre-colonial societies. Minerals had ceremonial roles and were linked to religious practices. For example, turquoise was connected to water god and used in ritual to call for rain. The mining activities were often managed by specific groups within the population. In some cultures, like the Aztec, the elite controlled them to maintain power and wealth. While during colonial period, the Spanish conquest ultimately reshaping and significantly changing the scope and method of mining due to Europe's immense demand for silver and gold. The Spanish colonization brought advanced mining techniques and greatly increased the extractions of precious metals, transforming the economy of the New World. In the mid 1500s, the discovery of extensive silver deposits in Zacatecas and Guanajuato led to a mining boom that persisted for centuries. Utilizing advanced European techniques, including the period process developed by Bartolomé de Medina in 1554, Spaniards converted these areas into some of the largest and most prosperous mining hubs globally. This method, which involved using copper sulfate and mercury with silver ore, revolutionized how silver was extracted. The colonial era has led to the impositions of a mercantilist economic system. Economic elites in the colonial period were predominantly Spanish born, active as transatlantic merchant and mine owners, and diversifying their investment within the landed estate. The largest population sector was indigenous subsistence farmers, which predominantly inhabited the center and south. During the independence of Mexico in 1821, Mexico has lost of its supply of mercury from Spain in silver mines. Most of the pattern of wealth in the colonial era continued into the first half of the 19th century, with agriculture being the main economic activity through the labor of indigenous and mixed-race peasants. The mid-19th century liberal reformer attempted to curtail the economic power of Catholic Church and to modernize and industrialize the Mexican economy. Following the Reform War and the Second French Intervention, the late 19th century found political stability and economic prosperity during the Porfiriato. Mexico was open to foreign investment and to a lesser extent foreign workers. Foreign capital built railway networks, one of the keys for transforming the Mexican economy by linking regions of Mexico and major cities and port. As the constructions of the railway bridge over a deep canyon at Metlac demonstrate, Mexico's topography was a barrier to economic development. The mining industry revived in the north of Mexico, and the petroleum industry developed in the North Gulf Coast state with foreign capitals. Regional civil wars broke out in 1910 and lasted until 1920, known generally as the Mexican Revolution. Following the military phase of the revolution, Mexican regime attempted to transform a largely rural and backward country into a middle-sized industrial power. The Mexican Constitutions of 1917 gave the Mexican government the power to expropriate property, which favored land reform through the creation of ejidos and the Mexican oil expropriations of 1938. Mexico benefited from its participation in World War II, and the post-war years experienced what has been called the Mexican miracle. This growth was fueled by import substitution industrialization, or ISI. The Mexican economy experienced the limit of ISI and economic nationalism in the 1970s. Large oil reserves discovered in the Gulf of Mexico in the late 1970s led the country to borrow heavily from foreign banks with loans denominated in US dollars. When the price of oil dropped in the 1980s, Mexico experienced a severe financial crisis. From the 1980s, Mexico implemented neoliberal economic policies and made constitutional changes to promote the private sector. The country campaigned to join the North American Free Trade Agreement (NAFTA), with the expanded treaty going into effect in Mexico, the US, and Canada on January 1, 1994. In the 21st century, Mexico has strengthened its trade ties with China, but China investment projects in Mexico have hit roadblocks in 2014 until 2015. Mexico's continued dependence on oil revenue has had a deleterious impact on economy as it happened in the 2010. As of 2023, Mexico is the US top trading partner, followed by Canada. Mexico accounts for almost 50% trade that US does with other countries. In the first 4 months of last year, the two countries had 263 billion in bilateral trade. Nowadays, more and more US and China company is looking for investment opportunity in Mexico. For example, the electric vehicle companies such as Tesla from US and BYD from China is planning on building their big manufacturing plant and factory. Manufacturing industry in Mexico is growing positively since America has moved away their manufacturing to Mexico. Mexico has 22 million inhabitants, making it the top 5 most populous cities in the world. Therefore, cheap labor is among the best sources that is promised by this country. According to PricewaterhouseCoopers, Mexico will become the world's seventh largest economy in the next 25 years. Due to this economic boom, real estate investment in Mexico also expected to be on the upswing. Central America is usually defined as consisting of 7 countries, which is Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. Central America is usually defined as consisting of 7 countries, which is Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. From the mid-19th century, Central America's economy was based on the productions of coffee and bananas for export. Cotton, sugar, and beef were exported in increasing amount after World War II. Corn, beans, and squash traditionally have been grown as staple food. Vigorous economic growth during the 1960s and 70s was followed by national indebtedness and low or negative economic growth rate in the 1980s. Throughout the 1980s and into the 90s, armed conflict, civil wars, high inflation, and poor social conditions contribute to a deteriorating economy, and most countries had to seek foreign aid from the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund. The civil unrest of the 1980s displaced up to 1 million people, including an estimated 500,000 Salvadorans who entered the United States. Tens of thousands of others migrated to Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and other countries in the region. Near the end of the 1990s, the region's economies rebounded, and the privatizations of companies and utilities, along with the spread of free trade, aided growth. By the end of the 20th century, Central America's government had attempted to revitalize the economy by fostering the diversification and expansions of non-traditional export and free trade zone, and assembly plants were established to encourage the expansions and decentralizations of manufacturing. Agriculture still employs larger proportions of workers than any other sectors, except in Panama, where services largely related to Panama Canal are of major economic importance. Tourism has increased mainly in Belize, Guatemala, and Costa Rica. The Northern Andes refer to the northernmost portions of the Andean mountain range in South America. This region spans several countries, including Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, and northern part of Peru. It is characterized by rugged terrain, high altitude mountain, and diverse ecosystem, ranging from tropical rainforest to high altitude perimo grassland. The Northern Andes refer to the northernmost portions of the Andean mountain range in South America. This region spans several countries, including Colombia, Venezuela. Before the arrival of European colonizers, indigenous societies in the northern Andes engaged in sophisticated agricultural practices, trade networks, and artisanal production. They cultivated crops like maize, potatoes, and quinoa in the Andean highlands, while also developing skills in metallurgy and weaving. In colonial period, Spanish colonization in the 16th century was primarily driven by the quest for precious metals such as gold and silver. The discovery of rich deposits in places like present-day Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru led to the establishment of mining towns and extraction operations. The Spanish also introduced crops like wheat, sugarcane, and livestock, transforming agricultural practice and land use in the region. Large haciendas were established, often worked by indigenous and African slave labor. During the post-independence years, the northern Andean countries continued to rely heavily on agriculture. Coffee, cacao, bananas, and flowers became important export crops, with Colombia and Ecuador emerging as major global suppliers. The constructions of railways and ports facilitate the export of agricultural products and minerals, linking inland regions to coastal market and international trade routes. The region also experienced periods of political instability, civil wars, and conflict over land and resources, which influenced economic development and foreign investment. In the 20th century and beyond, government in the Northern Andes are investing in infrastructure projects to improve transportation network, energy infrastructure, and telecommunications. This investment aim to facilitate economic growth and connect remote areas to urban centers and international markets. Urban centers such as Bogota, Quito, and Caracas saw industrial growth in sectors like textile, food processing, and chemicals. These industries were often supported by protectionist policies and government investment. It also contributed to local employment and economic output. The Northern Andes are rich in mineral resources. Colombia, in particular, is known for its productions of coal, gold, and emeralds. Venezuela has significant oil reserve, which historically has been a cornerstone of its economy. The discovery and exploitation of oil reserve in Venezuela and Colombia, particularly in regions like the Orinoco Belt and the Illinois Basin, transformed their economies, making oil a major export and source of revenue. The region attracts tourists from around the world due to its stunning natural landscape, including the Andean Mountains, Amazon rainforest in part of Colombia and Ecuador, and historical cities such as Quito and Cusco. Tourism contributes to local economies through accommodation, transportation, and the sale of handicraft and local products. Cities in the region had also served as hub for financial service trade and commerce. Bogota, for example, is a major financial center in Colombia, while Quito served as Ecuador administrative and economic capital. With a population of over 190 million and abundant natural resources, Brazil is one of the world giant of mining, agriculture, and manufacturing with rapidly growing service sector. It is a leading producer of a host of minerals including iron ore, tin, bauxite, manganese, gold, quartz, diamond, and other gems. Brazil exports vast quantities of steel, automobiles, electronic, and consumer goods. It is also a primary source of coffee, oranges, and cassava, and a major producer of sugar, soy, and beef. However, the relative importance of Brazilian agriculture has been declining since the mid 20th century when the country began to rapidly urbanize and exploit its minerals, industrial, and hydroelectric potential. The city of Sao Paulo, in particular, has become one of the world's major industrial and commercial centers. Brazil's economic history can be largely characterized as a cycle of booms and busts. From the 16th to the mid 20th century, the country was heavily dependent on one or two major agricultural products, whose price fluctuated widely on international markets. The cyclical aspect of the economy began with the export of Brazil wood in early colonial times and continued with sugar and mineral, especially gold and diamond, in the 18th century, while coffee and rubber became to be exported worldwide in the 19th century. However, in the next century, the Brazilian government attempted to diversify the country's production and reduce its dependency on agricultural export by strongly encouraging manufacturing. The government, hoping to ensure domestic control of key industries following the Great Depression of the 1930s, it took ownership of some of the country's largest companies, usually in partnership with one or more local or foreign corporations, and subsequently sold stock to private investors. The government initiated several key industries, including a modern shipbuilding program, a petrochemical sector led by the huge Petrobras company, which was created in 1953, a burgeoning microelectronic and personal computer industry, and aircraft manufacturing by the Embraer Corporation, including commercial jetliners, aviation and surveillance equipment, and aircraft for the Brazilian Air Force. They also established a motor vehicle industry in the 1950s to replace US and German import and assembly plants. For a period during the late 20th century, manufacturing accounted for the largest segment of the gross domestic product before it was overtaken by the service sector. Almost continuously high rate of inflation in the late 20th century affected every aspect of Brazil's economic life. Inflation came in part from the government policies of deficit spending, heavily financing industrial expansion, and subsidizing business loans, as well as the practice among individual Brazilians of obtaining loans from foreign banks when domestic credit was restricted. In the latter part of the 20th century, Brazil indexed nearly all transactions for inflation according to the constantly corrected value of the government bonds. This practice virtually institutionalized inflation and led to public acceptance of its inevitability. As a result, Brazil's anti-inflation program was only fleeting successful until the mid-1990s when the government initiated the Real Plan, a program that strictly limited government spending, introduced a new currency, and made other fiscal reforms. The government privatized dozens of financial institutions, manufacturers, and mining companies in the 1990s, including several major steel producers and the Rio Doce Valley Company. This Brazil giant mining and shipping conglomerate was apportioned into separate but still economically formidable mining and shipping units. The government also sold a minority of its Petrobras shares to private investors and partially opened the petroleum industry to competition. Additional public offering of Petrobras shares followed in 2010. At the beginning of the 21st century, serious problems marked the Brazilian economy aggravated by political uncertainties. Inflation, financial instability, and unemployment remain constant threats. A political and financial scandal periodically erupted throughout the country. However, by mid 2004, the inflation rate had decreased, and for the first time, Brazil issued bond in its own currency. Brazil still has one of the world's most lopsided distribution of wealth. 10% of the people receive nearly half of the country's income, whereas the poorest 40% of the population brought in less than one-tenth of the total. In addition, pattern of land ownership continued to be grossly uneven as they were in colonial times and social movement agitated for reforms. The Southern South America or the Southern Cone is a geographical and cultural subregion composed of the southernmost areas of South America, mostly south of the Tropic of Capricorn. It covers Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, and Uruguay. The Southern South America or the Southern Cone is a geographical and cultural subregion composed of the southernmost areas of South America. During the colonial era, the Spanish and Portuguese colonization focused on extracting wealth from the land. Southern South America, particularly the Pampas region, became known for extensive cattle ranching and lettuce sheep farming. Buenos Aires and Montevideo emerged as important trading centers. Meanwhile, in the Andean regions of Argentina and Chile, colonial powers exploited mineral resources such as silver and copper, establishing mining towns and infrastructure. Next, after gaining independence from Spain and Portugal in the early 19th century, Southern South America relied heavily on agricultural export. Argentina and Uruguay became major producers of beef wool and grains such as wheat, while Chile focused on mining export like copper. The constructions of railways and port in Argentina and Chile facilitate the export of agricultural and mining products, connecting inland regions to coastal markets and global trade routes. Argentina and Chile saw industrial growth in the 20th century with the development of manufacturing industries such as textiles, food processing, and metallurgy. Argentina's industrialization was particularly significant, making Buenos Aires a major industrial and financial hub in Latin America. Both Argentina and Chile experienced periods of political instability, military coups, and authoritarian regimes during the 20th century, which influenced economic policies and development. In the late 20th century, Argentina and Chile implemented economic reform aimed at liberalizing markets, privatizing state-owned enterprise, and attracting foreign investment. Chile, in particular, became known for its market-oriented reform, the Chilean economic miracle that led to sustained economic growth. Southern South America's abundant natural resources continued to play a crucial role in its economy. Chile remains the world's leading producer of copper, while Argentina is a major producer of agricultural goods such as soybeans and beef. The Caribbean is a subregion of the Americas that includes the Caribbean Sea and its islands, some of which are surrounded by the Caribbean Sea and some of which border both the Caribbean Sea and the North Atlantic Ocean. The nearby coastal areas of the mainland are sometimes also included in the region. The region is southeast of the Gulf of Mexico and Northern America, east of Central America, and north of South America. The region takes its name from that of the Caribs, an ethnic group present in the Lesser Antilles and parts of adjacent South America at the time of the Spanish conquest of the Americas. Both large and small ports were built throughout the Caribbean during the colonial era. The export of sugar on a large scale made the Caribbean one of the world's shipping cornerstone as it remains today. Many key shipping routes still pass through the region. The development of large-scale shipping to compete with other ports in Central and South America ran into several obstacles during the 23rd century. Economies of scale, high port handling charges, and a reluctance by Caribbean government to privatize port put Caribbean shipping at a disadvantage. Many locations in the Caribbean are suitable for the constructions of deepwater port for commercial ship container traffic or to accommodate large cruise ships. The deepwater port of Bridgetown, Barbados was completed by British investors in 1961. A more recent deepwater port project was completed by Hong Kong investors in Grand Bahama in Bahamas. Some Caribbean islands take advantage of flag of convenience policies followed by foreign merchant fleets registering the ships in Caribbean ports. The registry of ships at flag of convenience port is protected by the law of the sea and other international treaties. These treaties leave the enforcement of labor, tax, health and safety, and environmental law under the control of the registry or flag country, which in practical terms mean that such regulations seldom result in penalties against the merchant ship. The Cayman Islands, Bahamas, Antigua, Bermuda, and Saint Vincent are among the top 11 flags of convenience in the world. However, the flag of convenience practice has been a disadvantage to Caribbean islands as well, since it also applies to cruise ships which register outside the Caribbean and thus can evade Caribbean enforcement of the same territorial laws and regulation. For financial service, the development of offshore banking service began during the 1920s. The close proximity of the Caribbean island to the United States has made them an attractive location for branches of foreign banks. Clients from the United States take advantage of offshore banking service to avoid US taxations. The Bahamas entered the financial service industry first and continue to be at the forefront of financial services in the region. The Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands, and the Netherlands and Tiles have also developed competitive financial services industries. In recent years, the reduced interest rate and higher costs related largely to anti-money laundering compliance have led to the closure of many correspondent banking arrangements by extra-regional banks.